All right. It's been a while since I've done a sewing video, so hopefully this works out. Just got to find a spot to set you down. In my vastly limited space. There we are. Should be able to see everything I'm working on right now. I don't have the advantage of a cutting table at the moment, so I'm working on the floor. I got to clean it. A little bit. If I was making something for a customer, I'd go use the shop space. My former employer who's granted me permission for that. He's got a cutting table. But since it's a project for myself, I don't care so much. Anyway, the plan is, I've got this black drape material. Pull it out here. There it is. I got this blackout drape material. It's really nice stuff, and it's waterproof. Or at the very least, water resistant. I don't know what I was saving it for, but I have need of it now to make a pair of chaps. As much as I enjoy wearing the big black apron I made previously out of a waterproof tarp when I'm on the scooter, it doesn't exactly wear easily. When I'm not on the scooter. Right? But as soon as I get off the bike, it's a little long. It tends to dangle in front of me. So, the idea, I'm going to take a pattern, I'm going to trace it out in chalk on there, and then I'll cut it and stitch it together, make myself a pair of chaps. See how ridiculous I can look in a huge leather jacket and a pair of chaps with a helmet and big black gloves on a tiny little electric scooter. Okay, I'll let you know when something's going on. Okay, so I was going to lay it out black side up, the exterior of the fabric, and chalk the pattern on. However, between my bin and my drawers and my boxes and my tool bags, I can't find chalk to save my fucking life. So what I did instead was lay it out backwards and use a Sharpie. Can't see it that well from where you're sitting, but I got the rough pattern laid on there. Now I'm going to take and do my spacing. I have to do my seam allowance and a little extra because these are measured. This pattern is based it's based on a pair of jeans. So instead of making it fit me, I have to make it fit over a pair of jeans loosely. So I'm going to add on the stitching seams, like there, along the inside, along the inseam of the chaps, I'm going to add a ½ inch for seam allowance. On the outside, I'm going to add 2 inches because it has to have a fold that will button or zipper closed. So I have to make more room. But this is the first piece. I'm going to lay that out. I'll add the 2 inches and the ½ inch, and I'll fold it over and cut both at the same time. I'll show you when that's done. Now, filming in this new location has gotten a little more difficult than I expected as far as a sewing video might go. But there's the first 2 pieces cut and laid out where they're going to be stitched together. That's the 2 backs of the legs. The fronts are going to be stitched on the inseam and probably a snap button row down the outside. I have to cut those two, and I gotta cut the two yolks, which will attach here and here. So that is the next step in this process. I'll cut the rest of the pieces, and then I'll show you when I start putting them together. All right, got everything cut. The next step in the process of working in a confined space is I got to clear off the sewing machine, which means I got to find room for all of that crap on top of all of that crap. So I'll set that up, and then I'll put you in the other stand here so I can point you down at where I'm working. Start sewing stuff together. Now, normally when working on a project for myself, I wouldn't bother with anything as trivial as the color of thread I'm using. But looking at what I have available, it seems what I have the most of is proper jeans thread, so may as well use that rather than using up anything I have less of. So let's fill this bobbin. It's a rather quick process. There. So I'll set that up on the machine and get going and start putting these pieces together. All right. Now, these being based on a jeans pattern, we're of course going to do jeans stitching, which means half-inch selvage, or sorry, seam allowance, not selvage. Half-inch seam allowance, and a double top stitch. Just like a pair of jeans. And that means start 3 in, do our back stitch, then line up the edges and run our stitch. What we're doing here is we're attaching the yoke to the back. You'll notice here that the two pieces don't line up, that being because this one's curved, this one's straight. What you do is you stitch until you reach where where the two pieces are still lined up. Then you shift the one under the other until they line up. Then you move forward again. And again, and again, until you're all the way across. These don't have to be exact. Something that I've said for years, and other people tend to disagree with me, but sewing is very forgiving. Especially when we're dealing with fashion rather than function. This is both, but it's still very forgiving. So here's the first. It has to line up on this edge. It doesn't have to line up here because that's going to be folded under. So we fold down. We line up the edge of the foot with the edge of the fold. Do our back stitch. Pull it tight, and then just hit it. We don't want to go a long distance when we're moving at a high speed. So you want to go as slow as you can manage so you don't screw up. If that means putting your hand on the wheel on the back of your machine to slow it down and only using one hand down here, then that's what you do. See, and this edge is going to be folded over. We don't have to do very much to keep it neat and tidy. So you can just take 2 stitches across to make your row, and then you try and keep the distance the same, about 1/4 inch from this side of the foot to your previous stitch row. That'll make a nice visible line. It's a little too close there, but I'm the only one wearing it, so it don't matter. We get this to the end, back stitch that end, 3 stitches across, 3 stitches out. There's our first stitch row. I'll show you what that looks like. Look like a pair of jeans? Okay, so do that the other one, and I'll start attaching all the pieces and show you when it's all in one piece. Okay, this is getting interesting. So we've got them all in one piece now. There's that yoke I put together. You can see it's all in one piece. Not really organized or laid out, but there's a center back, the yoke that's all attached. And see if I can lay this out on the floor for you to see. Just give me a second. And it's starting to look like a pair of chaps. So the next thing you got to do is figure out the waistband. But, well, yeah, I'll figure out the length of the waistband. But before I do that, that 2 inches of overlap I put there, it's far more than enough and far more than is necessary. So I'm going to fold that in like so and stitch it down. Stitch down that edge. That's where a reinforcing strip will go inside the length. Well, no, I'm not going to do a reinforcing strip. I'll double fold it. Like so, like so, and like so, which will provide enough reinforcement to put snap buttons down the length of it. It'll be the difficult part. And I think I'm going to do the top fold first. We're figuring this out as we go. It's been a while since I made anything like this, so starting from the back, working to the front, that type of thing. But yeah, we'll get that folded in, top, down the 2 sides of the back to get all the reinforcing stuff done. And, well, I'll show you when that's done. Okay, so I got all the edges on the back there stitched. That's a triple fold, or a double fold rather, so there's 3 layers of fabric that I can put the snap buttons through to hold everything closed. I also closed the front edge right there. That'll alleviate a lot of problems. So the next step is going to be, at this point, figuring out the waist measurement. Figure out what the waist measurement I want is, because it's got to go over top of all my regular clothes, jeans and everything else. Waistband will sit slightly above my belt line. That's fine. And it'll just cover everything else, or cover everything up, and keep the rain off my legs. Easy enough. So, first step in that is going to be measuring my waist. This is staying as is. This is the part that's going to have to be folded, cut, etc. I think I'm just going to fold it in, like get the measurement and then fold it in like that. Double fold, of course, but fold it in at the right distance so that it'll snap onto that to create the waistband. So that, I'll measure that out, mark it, fold it, and then do the stitching. Then I'll show you when that's done. Okay, so I got all the edges done now. They're folded up to the right distance. I left the legs as loose as possible. But you can see, fold that over. Fold this over top. The snap buttons are going to go straight through there. The only things left to do sewing-wise are measuring and folding the cuffs, which is easy enough. And this huge unified and connected hole across the center, which I need to hem. So I'll hem that up. Once I get that done, I can actually measure the outside leg, find out where the cuff's going to be, and put that in place. So, yeah, I'll just hem this up, same as I did the top edge here, 1/2 inch down, and then double stitch. But, you know, stitching-wise, color-wise, it actually looks pretty good. Looks like a pair of jeans, except it's waterproof and, well, it's Chaps. So I'll get that put together, the inside bit there, and maybe the cuffs too, and well, I'll show you when the sewing's all done and lay out to do all the snaps. Okay, other than the cuffs, that's all the stitching done. I think it was pretty good. Well, it's reasonable. I don't know how well it'll work out, but I will try these on once I get all the snaps and everything on there. So I'm going to do the cuffs now. I'm going to measure. Well, they're going to be slightly oversized, so I'm going to measure the shortest, which would be the front. As you can see, the back is longer by a couple inches. We're going to measure the front, and from there I'm going to do a 1-inch hem. It's about an inch. 1-inch hem across. Of course, cutting there and folding up. I'm going to do a 1-inch hem, matching this, or cutting this to match the length of this. I'll do the same on both sides because they both overlap about the same distance. So I'll do that. Then, well, I'll do that, and then they'll go through the absolute tedium of getting the press dug out so that I can put in snaps. Alright. I'll show you when I got at least something put together. Right. Shut down the machine. All the stitching is done. That big hole, sides where the button rows are going to go, and I got the cuffs sewn up. Nicely even all the way across on a 1-inch double fold. So the next step is I'm going to take a break and have my supper, and then I got to dig that green monstrosity out from underneath the pile and, well, see about putting in some snaps. Okay, I'll show you when that happens. I know for a fact I got to get this thing done tonight because I got to go out riding in the rain tomorrow, and I would prefer to wear chaps as opposed to the apron. Okay? See you in a, well, for you it'll be a couple of seconds, but for me it'll be about half an hour, 45 minutes. So after a reasonable supper, I finally dug that thing clear. Got it all my necessary materials and tools. I'm going to punch all of the holes for the caps and then put those in, and swap dies, and punch all of the holes for the posts, and then put those in. And when that's all done, then I'll show you the finished product. Well, there's the completed piece. Worked out pretty good, I think. First thing I'll do is clean up this fucking disgusting mess I've made. Put everything away, clean up, and then I'll put them on and, well, I guess show you what they look like on. Okay. Not sure how good this is showing it, but I should do a reasonable job of keeping my legs relatively dry when I'm on the bike, as opposed to wearing a big black apron. I think they'll look better when I got the jacket on over top of it, but there they are. One-day project, waterproof chaps. Alright, like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll talk to you next time.